Well, Neil, we're starting again, and unfortunately talking about another red card today.
Yeah.
You've seen the incident on video, you saw it live, obviously. What do you make of it, and do you think it was a fair red card?
Looking at it, yeah, it looks like a red card. You know, I don't think, you know, Carl's gone to intentionally hurt somebody. Ball's got away from him. You know, he's tried to receive the situation. Their lads come, cleared the ball, and he's high. So, you know, it's a sending off. But I don't want people to get carried away with some dirty team, because you've gone through the game. We haven't. It's just individual incidents, I think, in the main. You know, the Glen Rule incident is an individual. You know, as a team, you know, I don't think we go round. If I'm honest, I think we don't get the rub of the green the other way, if I'm honest. You know, I think, you know, teams get away with a lot more than what we do. But that's no excuse, you know. You know, we've got to improve our discipline. We can't play football for 80 odd minutes with 10 men. It's impossible. You know, the lads, again, you can't fault them. Their effort, commitment. I thought we're probably the better side on the day. Yet they've had a lot of the ball, but you know, they've whipped a few balls across the box. But our shape in our, particularly second half, when we got them in at half time and been able to readjust. But you know, we tried to win the game. I know the fans are getting a little bit frustrated, but we've got two up front. You know, we can't do any more than try and win the game. And you know, sometimes you've got to try and nick one, and we nearly did with young Max at the end.
You say we've got to improve our discipline. Where does that start? Does it start with you? Can you get that message to your players, or do they just not listen sometimes? Is that the case?
Well, that's what I've just said to them in there. You know, we can set them up how we want them to play. We can bring them in training, but they've got to curb. They've got to realise that, because they're not going around topping people, or you know, but they've got to realise that in a game when the heat's on and you know, there's a big crowd on, they're up for it, we're up for it. That you've got to curb your enthusiasm a little bit, because I think that's all it is. You know, I think Carl today he hasn't gone to top a player who's, you know, he's trying to retrieve a ball that he's miscontrolled. But there's no excuses. It's in the modern game today. It's a sending off. You know, and we can't. I can't argue that point. You know, but again, we're talking about a sending off, and we should really be talking about the performance of the 10 men. You know, because Brackley have come here quite buoyant, you know, quite vocal, you know, and looking to turn us over. And I'm sure when we went down to 10 men after 80 minutes, they probably thought that was, you know, a likely outcome. But our lads have dug in, scored the first goal, had a great shape about us. They passed it around, but they weren't penetrative passing. You know, and we tried to hit them on the break, which we have done once or twice. And as I say, at the end, you know, young Max has nearly got himself a goal with a header.
The goal you did score, lovely move. Gareth Roberts was involved. Jake with a great ball in towards the near post, and Big K, just what you'd want really. And there's been some criticism of your strikers not scoring enough goals lately, and Big K's answered that today at the Cheadle end.
Well, I thought he was outstanding. His work rate was phenomenal. All the players were phenomenal, but forwards has to do a hard job, because in most circumstances, most teams would go one up front, you know, and try and play it. But you know, we're at home. I think we've got to try and win games of football. Hence, we leave two up front and we try and go for it. And we trust our lads in midfield and our full-backs, you know, to go tight early and to organise. And it was working, and it worked, you know. But unfortunately, we can't play football with 10 men. We've got to have 11 men on the pitch. And apart from go blue in the face and keep telling them, what more can you do as a manager? You know, you hit them in the pockets. We're doing that anyway. But I know them individually. You know, and there's not a bad lad in there in terms of wanting to go around injuring people or getting physical, you know. And the bad thing for me is the sending offs have just been, you know, ridiculous. If you look at all of them, apart from probably today, because it's a miscontrol and he's tried to retrieve the situation. But the other two, you know, have not been good. And we mustn't forget that Danny Hurst one wasn't a sending off. So, yeah. But again, I'm not condoning what's going on. Our discipline has been very poor from individuals. No, not as a team, as individuals. And they're letting the rest of the side down. And that's the message I just got over in the dressing room. I wouldn't be happy playing, you know, 90 minutes 80 minutes with 10 men. You know, and they've got to go and sort it out between themselves. And they've got to keep a calm head when everything else is getting a little bit heated around them.
You mentioned Max Hazeldine earlier. Had a chance to score and flashed a little header across the face of goal. But I thought he worked really hard when he came. His work rate was good, and he put the defenders under pressure. He was asking questions of them all afternoon. Yeah,
he'll do well. You know, what I loved about him, he came on. He knew we were down to 10. He worked his socks off. He dropped in on the floor. Game knowledge of a young boy of that age to be able to just go in and do that. You know, and then as you say, there's a lot of big lads in that box. You know, and he's the one who's rose and nearly scored. And I thought Sean O'Hanlon just before that, I thought it was a goal, and somehow it came back out the other way. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of the 10 men. But as I keep saying and I keep harping on about it, we can't play football with 10 men.
In terms of, you mentioned Glenn Rule as well there, and in terms of Glenn, a 10-match ban as it stands at the moment, I know that's something that could be appealed. That's going to cause a major headache, clearly, going forward. And now with Carl as well facing what would be a 3-match ban, I mean, you're going to be very light on numbers in there, aren't you?
Well, that's the other thing. You know, it's not what the damage it's done today. It's the damage it does further on, because those players now aren't out there to to go and pick up and you know. So I can't wave a magic wand to replace them, because Carl's coming to replace Glenn. Now someone's going to try and replace Carl. You know, so. You know, I'm working morning, noon and night to try and bring players into this football club to improve us and to try and help us, and lads are getting themselves sent off, and you know, and you know, from my point of view, you know, the message to our supporters is, don't think this is being taken lightly. You know, internally, you know, we are dealing with it and we will deal with it, but you know, at this moment in time, it's about concentrating on trying to win football matches. Trying to get players in the door that can do that. And if lads are going to show ill discipline, they won't be here. I'll just ship them off, contract or non-contract. You know, at the end of the day, I've got to be confident that when I put a team out on a football pitch, is in the main, we will have issues, we will have incidents like every club, but in the main, we're going to have 11 men on the pitch. You know, I can't keep harping on about this, that, and the other. I've got to concentrate on my own team. Yeah, we've seen today again. You know. In my opinion, and I think I'm pretty fair, that you know, there was tackles that they made which went unpunished, but I can only concentrate on my own team, and that's what I intend to do.
It's great for Kay scoring today, as we've already mentioned. He had his boy here today as well, which makes it doubly nice for him. Callum Dyson had been scoring goals for you, got recalled. What's the situation with him now? He's gone back to Everton clearly, but is that a loan that can be revived? Yeah,
you can revive them with them being youth loans, so that you can do it. But obviously at the moment, Everton have got 2 lads who've come back from England under 21 duty, or international, sorry, under 21 duty, who are injured. So that's a possibility. But we brought young Max in, you know, and I think I've seen enough in half an hour, and I've seen enough in Tuesday night's game and the reports that I've had off Carl, who's seen him a number of times, that you know, I'm confident that the boy can make an impact. You know, he's on his home turf. You've seen today, he's flashed one across the goal, he's worked his socks off. If we can get 11 men on the pitch and he doesn't have to drop in and pick a midfielder up for the best part of the game, and he can just concentrate on hustling, bustling centre halves and getting down the sides of people, then we've got a player. And you know, Jon Keighren, who's been in the game a long time, rates him very, very highly. So you know, that's good enough for me.
Well, after 4 red cards in 3 home games, you must be pleased it's an away game at Chorley on Tuesday now, eh?
Yeah, but it's another cauldron to go into of atmosphere. You know, Chorley fans are lively and get right behind the team. I'm positive our fans will be the same. But you know, we've got to keep our discipline. As I said before, you know, if people can't do that, there's no good them being here, because I'm not good with 4 or 5 lads sitting in stands. You know, so you know, we've got a lot of work to do, or they've got a lot of work to do personally between themselves. You know, in making sure that the recklessness of certain challenges is nipped in the bud, because that's what's letting us down. It's not 2 yellers, it's recklessness of individuals, and they've got to put it right, because if it happens again, they know the consequences.
And it's doubly frustrating, because I mean, you're still in the playoff places even now. Yeah, but I mean, where could you be if that wasn't happening, if you hadn't got these red cards? It's phenomenal to think.
Well, it is, and as I said before, it's not so much about the game at that time, it's the knock-on effect in terms of having your players that you've brought into the club available to you. All I can say is they must like giving the wages up, you know, because that's what will happen. You know, they'll be fined the maximum I can fine them, and hopefully that'll wake a few of them up and nip it in the bud, you know. And but I would like to, I'd like to finish on what a performance from the 10 men. Whichever 10 men it was, lads coming off the bench. Because I thought, we done really well. Our shape was very good tactically. They took everything on board. They worked their socks off. They couldn't give any more. But I'm sure our supporters and me, my staff, want to see that with 11 men. Because once we do and we click, we can't get a momentum going while we keep playing football with 10 men.
Well said. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.